What's going on, you guys? My name is Russell and you're watching The Bible Man. If you're new to this channel and like the content I make here, please hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, and turn on all notifications for any future updates here on my channel. And if you feel like supporting me in any way, shape, or form, you're welcome to go ahead and do so. Links are in the description box below. There you can support me on Patreon. Alright, on to today's video. So, as you all know, I'm doing a series where I'm doing talking about marriage. But I'm putting a pause on that to talk about my life and my testimony because how I grew up. This is part 2 to that series. In my last video, I left off at the foster home I was in and got kicked out of, called Judy Quinn West, the lady who owned the foster home. So I'm going to go recap where I left off. So I was with Judy Quinn West for about 2.5 years, from 2009 to November of 2010. She was a really great person, and we did a lot of great and awesome things. We had pets, we went out to eat, we went to Universal Studios, Islands of Adventures, SeaWorld, we went to church every Sunday, we went to church events, we spent time with her family and their family and stuff like that. But there lies a problem. Like, I wasn't in the right mind to be in that situation and to be in that home. I had issues and I had my own problems. Normally I don't like to do this, but at that time I was getting into a lot of trouble and a lot of issues and a lot of fights at school and at the house, and it led to a lot of issues. And I got kicked out of that foster home, and I was sent to a Baker Act facility in Cocoa Beach, and then I was sent back to Orlando, Florida, to another group home. So this group home, man, this group home was hell. Let's look at the very first week at this group home. First, the name of the group home is called the Apopka Group Home. It's off Bear Lake Drive in Apopka, Florida. For those of you who are familiar with Central Florida, know that that area is a very bad area. I was going in between Bear Lake Drive and going to school in Lake Mary High School, and I got kicked out of Lake Mary High School and sent to Lyman High School. But I'll talk about that later in this video. But man, that group home was crazy. I was in a very bad group home, and I'm glad I left that group home. My very first week or very first month, I got into at least 16 fights. And I was beaten up by one person at a time. I was beaten up by 3 people at a time. I was picked up in the air by staff and slammed onto a mat and had their knee pressed against my head. I was put into a situation where I was tricked to go to the back of the house, and I was put into a rear naked choke to the point where I was passed out. And the entire group home was just a very bad influence on me in my life. And to top all that off, I was getting picked on and messed with on a daily basis. And not to mention what was going on at school. When I went to school at Lake Mary High School, everything was fine. But when I got expelled and went to Lyman High School, it got real messy. I was being picked on by a varsity football team, and I was being picked on the bus, at lunch, all the classes, at breakfast. And since I had class with this guy, I had to deal with it. I went through that for probably a good amount of 6 months, and there became a point in time where I'm like, screw this. I went to the dean's office and I told them what was going on, who's messing with me, who's picking on me. And the very next day I was called back to the dean's office. The dean's office told me, you cannot tell false stories like this. You cannot make false reports like this. They said the next time you make a false report like this, we're going to have to arrest you for a misdemeanor for making a false statement about another classmate. It's illegal in the state of Florida. So with everything that was going on at the group home, everything that was going on at the school, I was in a mindset where I didn't care no more. If the school wasn't going to handle it, I thought I'm going to handle it. I went to school with a chip on my shoulder because my entire life was turned upside down because of my actions and my behavior, because I lost such an awesome and kind and loving foster mom because of my actions, and I was put into a home where I was getting beaten up on a daily basis. I was being picked on a daily basis, and now I'm in a school where I'm being picked on at school and at the house. And I went to class right after the dean's office, and as soon as I got into class, he said something slick. And he said to me, "Hey everybody, look, it's mouse ears." And then he threw something at me. I snapped, I lost it, I was out of control, I jumped on the table. I grabbed a handful of pencils, jumped on him, and I stabbed his neck 15 times. Then the teachers got involved, I went for the teachers. Security guards got involved, I went for the security guards. On-campus police officers got involved. They tased me 6 times. I was sentenced to the Juvenile Detention Center in Brevard County. I was there from January 31st, 2011 to June 31st, 2011. And I'll get back to that in a little while, because that case is very important because we live in the state of Florida. Even if I post this, the statute of limitations, basically any case or any law that doesn't hold somebody accountable for their actions after a certain period of time, basically gives me immunity to what happened if the charges weren't holding me accountable to what I did. The charges were dropped, the charges were dismissed, so I can talk about this. And since the statute of limitations are basically a law in the United States, I can basically use this story to tell you my testimony. After a while of talking to my caseworker and talking to my mom, because my mom was still my legal guardian at the time, they decided to take me out that home because they realized that home wasn't doing me any good. That home was bad. The staff were fighting the kids or encouraging the kids to fight them because they were watching Gangland 24/7 and they were thinking they were in a gang. The staff were emptying out their guns and shooting their guns in the backyard and at the house in front of the kids at the group home. This staff were shadowboxing the kids at the home. They had muscle cars and they were doing wheelies in front of the group home, and neighbors were complaining. The kids were so brainwashed by the negativity from Spike TV and Gayland. That's the type of stuff they would watch. They were insulting the police officers who came to check up after a fight broke out. Called them white crackers. No, they pulled me out of there, only to put me into a worse home. Only to put me in a worse home. I got into so many fights at that home. I was choked out to the point where I passed out. I was jumped by 3 kids at one time. I was picked up in midair like this and slammed onto a mat and then had their knee pressed against my face. Only to be sent to a home worse than that. Now, some will debate me if the home I'm talking about, Deborah Vieira, the Vieira group home is worse than that group home. Some would debate me. I don't consider it a worse home because they don't have those things. I consider it a worse home because the environment I was in. The environment I was in basically forces you to fight. Case in point, I got into majority of the fights I got in my life happened at the Vieira group home. And throughout my life, I got into 575 fights. And out of those fights, I only probably won 250, 275. That's it. 275 out of 575 fights. That's saying something. I'm not really a fighter. Majority of the fights I would jump into it out of anger and rage. Most of the time, I didn't even know how to fight. But in the Vieira group home, there's really not much to say. I had it a little bit better than the Apalka group home, but I will go over a couple of things that happened in the Vieira group home. The Vieira group home was a little bit different. It kind of mirrored Universal Behavior Center and Sandy Pines, if you watched my last video, but it was different from their counterparts. Instead of having a bathroom and shower in your room, you have it on the floor. I remember getting into lots of issues there, but I also remember having a lot of good times. We went to this NBA All-Star convention back in 2011 with the Vieira group home. We went to Rapid Water Park, so we went to Daytona Lagoon. We went to Planet Hollywood and Disney, and a couple of other places we went to. It was fun. It was fun when I wasn't getting in trouble. Majority of the stitches I got on my body happened at that group home. I got stitches from a fight that I got into a fight with somebody where I had my eye gashed open in a fist fight with somebody. Another issue was I was riding a scooter and I fell down on my chin and I got my chin bust open. I got a scar underneath here. There was this another occasion where I got into a fight with somebody. His name is, I won't say his name, but there was this another occasion we were in the classroom. We got into a fight. Staff broke us up. I got tackled to the smart board of the room. The cord ripped apart and it slashed open my leg. And it's a nasty scar. I'm not going to show you on camera, it's too graphic, but I still have the scar to this day. After the staff saw it and after they were done restraining me and the other kid I was trying to fight, they had to take me to the hospital and get me stitches and staples. I got 26 stitches and 15 staples on my knee. And my eye, 3 months before that, I got into a fight with another kid where I got into a fist fight and my eye was gashed open. I got 12 stitches and 6 stitches under my chin. So it was like 50-50. Majority of it was me getting into fights and the other 50% is me just having fun and having a good time. But it wasn't until a year and a half of being there where I started to mature and grow and make wiser decisions because I was growing up. I was growing up But before I get into that point in my life, let me tell you some things I experienced in my life that put me in a situation where I had to sit down one day and think and meditate. I used to see kids get beaten up with a lock in a sock down the hall from me. There were nights where I couldn't sleep because I would hear stories. I would hear crying and screaming because 6 people are holding down a kid and just wailing on them. And what are the staff doing? Nothing. The staff are the one who let them into that room. You can't trust DCF. DCF, their job is to make you feel like they're putting your kids in a safe environment. They're not. I know somebody personally who was raped in 4 foster homes, and they swept it under the rug. I had my butt handed to me when I was picked up in midair, slammed onto the mat. I was beaten up by staff, choked out unconscious by clients. I've seen roommates where they were put into a full Nelson and beaten up to the point where their jaw came off. I've seen kids down the hall from me get beaten up with a lock in a sock. I've seen people occasions where staff will let certain clients on the floor in certain people's room to hold them down and beat them to a bloody pulp. And on every single occasion, this DCF don't care. They sweep it under the rug like nothing happens. Why? Because the staff have a job, they have a driving license, they work, and we're the ones on medication. DCF, their job is to make the public feel. DCF's job is like the Democrats' job. DCF's paints an image that makes you feel good about them, but they have skeletons in their closet they're not ever going to tell you, but I will. DCF are more corrupt than Republicans, Democrats, Planned Parenthood, Hitler, the world government, and the Illuminati, as well as Bill Gates and every rich billionaire on the planet. They're more corrupt than Donald J. Trump. From what I experience, I can honestly say that. When you know somebody personally who was raped in 4 different foster homes, and it was swept under the rug on all 4 occasions, and when she decided to fight back, she was put in handcuffs and locked up and put into jail. But the staff weren't. The staff were given a pat on the back. No. Now, I'm not saying every person who works for DCF are bad people. There's some good people who work for DCF. I'm not saying everyone who works for DCF are bad people, but majority are. Majority will stab you in the back and don't care about you or your well-being or your past or your future. They don't care about you. Case in point, I had a caseworker when I had an incident at that school at Lyman High School when I got into the fight and I stabbed the kid in the neck. That was trying to lock me up instead of trying to help me. Her name was Brittany Hall. And no, I don't care about her privacy. The very fact that she was trying to lock me up, I don't care. Brittany Hall, in case you want, used to work for DCF until she screwed me over. Then I got a new caseworker who I still talk to this day. She's a really awesome person. She's a blessing on my life. Won't say her name, but she's a blessing on my life. At Deborah Vieira, in my life, and throughout many group homes and foster homes, including Deborah Vieira, especially the Apaka group home, I've seen a lot of stuff. I experienced a lot of stuff. I've been through a lot of pain, a lot of suffering, a lot of issues. And today when people view me, they view me as this kind, giggly, immature, childish guy. That's to blame on mostly on how I grew up. I didn't have my mom. I didn't have my dad. I had staff who were irresponsible, immature, who encouraged violence and fighting rather than helping the clients mature and grow and be better versions of themselves when they grow up. So back to Deborah Vieira. And Deborah Vieira was the place I met three of the most awesome people in my life right now. Gloria, Greg, and Bill Appleton met me in Orlando, Florida at the Vieira group home in talks of moving to this group home I'm currently living at right now. And this happened in 2011 in July. We talked about a couple of things. I talked to them about this Christian singer named Carmen. Greg told me about OP Records. Gloria had a conversation. We had a conversation about the good things, the bad things. We had a good conversation for, I want to say, a good 30 minutes. And then I went about my day. But I did not know they were going to be the people who will be an instrumental figure in forming, shaping, and growing and maturing who I am as a person as the time goes by. And I want to add a side note. The state of Florida, DCF, as well as Children's Department of Families, as well as Deborah, were all warning Gloria, Bill Appleton, and Greg not to take me into the home. They were saying, well, Gloria, this kid, don't take him in. He's too violent. He's a runaway risk. He has problems. He has a history of violence. He has this. He has that. Gloria did the most Christian thing possible. She took me in. She gave me a chance to prove myself. And I have never been more grateful to anyone else in my life than I am towards her. She's the most loving person I have ever met. I love her. And I am so grateful for Gloria and Greg and Bill. They have been instrumental figures in growing and maturing me. They're irreplaceable. And I don't know what I would have done without them. Or I don't know what I would have done if they didn't take me into their life. It's like the moment I stepped foot in this group home, I started a new leaf. And none of this maturity or growth would have happened if I never met Judy Quinn West or went to the Apaka group home or the Vieira group home and went through the pain and suffering that I did. I have been through so much as a kid. I have seen so much pain in the system, and I never want anyone to go through that ever again. I don't care who it is or what the circumstances or what the situation is. I don't want any kid to grow up the way I did or in the homes I grew up in. So if I ever become a father, no matter what the circumstance is, I ain't never leaving that kid. I'm gonna give it 175% of my effort, time, capability, ability, strength, will, and power, mind, body, and soul to dedicate my time to growing that kid and maturing that kid. And I'm never going to give up on that kid. The same way Glory never gave up on me after the state warned her not to even take a chance on me. And I'm going to use my past experiences, what triggered me, to raise that kid the best way possible. Of course, I'm also going to raise him up in the Word of God. Who wouldn't? I want my kid to understand why Jesus died on the cross for our sins, why he came, and why he needs a personal relationship with Jesus if I decide to have one, or if I find a spouse and get married. I want my kid to be able to understand the full meaning of the gospel of Jesus Christ if I decide to have one or get married. Alright guys, and my next video will be part 3 of my life and my testimony. And I'm going to break down how is my life going so far in the group home I'm in right now. What things have transpired since I came here. What things have formed my growth and helped me grow and mature into the person who's sitting before you now. What things I regret doing, what things I'm going to hold on to as regrets probably for the rest of my life, and what things are going to change me into be a better version, and what am I doing to get better and mature and get wiser with my decisions and actions. In my next video, I will definitely explain all of that in my next video. Until then, stay tuned for my next video called My Life, My Testimony, Part 3. My name is Russell, and you're watching The Bible Man.